Don't lie to me. Alan Rickman. Sheriff of Nottingham. Young Robin Locksley.
You seen Robin Hood recently, right? Is that why you?
We just started it the other night. I was showing Victor the soundtrack to that movie. It's got a killer freaking soundtrack, orchestral score. But no, we started it the other night. We started it. It was good. It's good. It's a fun movie, man. It's a fun movie. One of those period pieces, you know?
It's good. It had a lot of great actors in there.
I started thinking about period piece movies, and I'm like, especially really old ones, like, you know, Robin Hood. This is the time of the Crusades, and it's like, how do we really know that's what it was like? Were you there? Was the director there? Was the writer there?
A lot of it's like, written down.
Yeah.
History is a lie agreed upon, right?
Do we know they talked like that? You know what I mean?
You heard that? History is a lie agreed upon.
And there it is. We're right off the jump.
If you weren't there, right? It's hard. You go by what people wrote, though. That's why you go by what people wrote. We talked about it the other day. Who's writing this stuff down, though?
Unless you're NASA. And then
you don't write anything down. You don't write anything down. And you're just so excited in the moment and you don't write anything down. This is what they say. It sounds crazy to me that we can't go back because that stuff is lost. It's like, you lost it.
NASA lost all of the
pertinent information to get back there.
Was it on a 3-ring binder somewhere, and someone would just scribbling down equations? It was on
sticky notes.
Yeah,
and they got excited and threw them all away.
We can't freaking find it. We're talking about going to the moon, baby. Not Mars, Mars. We're talking about the moon. I watched a great I watched a great video on the internet the other day on YouTube from a group called Corridor Digital. We talked about them. They're a bunch of young guys that do visual effects. And their whole channel is, you know, the VFX artists react to bad and great and horrible CGI from movies and things like that. But anyway, they did one on April Fool's the other day. They released a video on, they analyzed from a VFX standpoint, all of the footage from the Apollo missions and to the moon.
Yeah. And
they looked at it from a practical filmmaker standpoint and a VFX artist standpoint. They looked at all the technology that was, you know, happening back then. And a year prior to the moon landing was Stanley Kubrick's 2001: A Space Odyssey. So that was like cutting edge back then. And so they go through all this footage, and they break it down, they analyze it, and they say whether that could have been faked or not, shot by shot. Some of them could have been faked, but a lot of them, the majority of them, they were like, there's just no way. They're looking at the lighting, they're looking at how the shadows are sharp. They're looking at VFX from, you know, back then on what you could and couldn't do, even theoretically. And they said most of it, there's just no way it was faked. And It was a really interesting video to watch. We'll have to watch it together because I was thinking of you. I was like, man.
I seen it. Everybody became a scientist because you can't make a footprint in a vacuum. You can't do this. You can't do that. And then people figured out like you can do these things.
Yeah. Speaking of the vacuum, it was really cool. They were talking about how.
Keep going. I'm gonna flip the screen.
Yeah, you're good. They were talking about how when the astronauts were jumping and when their feet were hitting all of the debris, the particles were. Just perfectly shooting out and then falling. They were talking about there's wind on Earth, there's air on Earth. You know what I mean? And air does certain things to things. They're talking about like vortexes and how things work, and they're like slowing it down. They're like, there's no way that's fake. Like, you can't do that here unless you shot everything in a complete vacuum. And they were like, okay, let's say you did that. They were talking about in order to get like the shots to look right with that shadowing and that lighting, and how everything on the horizon, there's no fog, there's no mist. It's like everything is just perfectly clear. It was fascinating, man.
You know, if they faked it, they got a lot of things right that there's no way they would have known how to fake.
They said at one point for one of the shots where it was like you're looking at, I wish we could pull up a shot, but it's like you see the spacecraft moving through space with the giant moon behind it. And it's just this one unbroken shot for like 15 minutes. Mm-hmm. And they said in order to get the lighting, and if that was a model, like it started off as like a speck. And then it just slowly gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger with all this level of detail. And they said at one point, like if they faked it, they would have had to have had like a football-sized soundstage with like 300-foot ceilings with a light that could simulate the sun, and you just can't simulate the sun and that amount of power. And being able to just illuminate it was fascinating. So maybe in the comments I'll link to that video, because those guys are really talented and they're really funny to watch too. So it's crazy, man. It's crazy.
And the why is, I mean, I guess you'd have to talk to like parents and grandparents as to why you would fake it and why that would be important, because the whole point would be to scare China and Russia, right? Like they say the whole point was to show we can launch a missile to any point in the planet. Like that's why landing on the moon was important. If we can hit the moon, we can hit any target on the planet.
Yeah.
The whole space race was about military. It was about how we can put a nuke anywhere. It was just a chest beating.
Yeah. Didn't one of them like punch somebody? Some reporter, was it Buzz Aldrin or somebody?
Oh yeah.
Somebody
when they, you're a liar. He called him a liar to his face.
And he was like coming out of a training scenario.
Give him a moon man punch,
dude, and straight up like 60-year-old man was just like punched a reporter.
He's probably sick of hearing that.
Can you imagine?
He's probably sick of being called a liar and
it's fake. Man,
especially no. It's being called a liar over and over can be incredibly frustrating when you know you didn't lie. And that meant they say you did great things. Like that's amazing. It's part of history. Like and to be treated that way, like
there's a shot. There's a very famous photograph that one of them took. They were holding a Hasselblad camera. That's what they took up there. So they brought a Hasselblad stills camera, and they shot one of the astronauts with their visor, and it's super reflective, right?
Yeah.
And they were like, if you've ever done any kind of movie making or any of this, it's very difficult to get lights and everything out of shots and things like that. And his helmet is like completely 360, and everything. It's so perfect.
Yeah.
They're like, it's just so perfect, and they're so beautifully lit, not like cinematically, but just so harshly, perfectly lit. And they're like, dude, there's just no way they fake that. Like that's crazy. So, I've always been I love conspiracies. So of course I want it to be fake. Of course I do, but that was the first time where I was like looking and people kind of frame by frame went through it and was like, look, this is how we could try to fake that even with today's technology, but it still wouldn't look right. And it was really cool going back and forth from, they would show the real Apollo footage for a little while, and then they would bring up 2001: A Space Odyssey, similar looking shots. And it really does look fake. Like you think 2001 looked great, and it still looks great from a film standpoint, but man, up against that kind of footage, it's like, dude, no, I mean, it looks super real, man. It looks super real. We're so used to crisp 4K HD images, so when we see old footage like that, it's like, oh, it's fake. But yeah, it was a fascinating watch.
Now the goal is Mars.
Mars, baby. Who wants to go live on Mars, though?
Elon Musk. If I remember right, did they recently find clouds on Mars?
Something like that.
And they found clouds, and if there's clouds, there's water. I thought we need way more, but it's like apparently it's like if you got water, then there's hope for everything.
Yeah, that's like the great equalizer.
It's like water. We'll figure everything else out as long as we got water.
Yeah, we'll get some water up there. Did you ever see that movie, The Martian?
No, I know what you're talking about, but no.
Matt Damon. It's pretty good.
That won awards too, no?
Yeah, it was pretty entertaining.
Yeah, no, I haven't liked the space movie in a long time. I didn't like the Sandra Bullock movie. I didn't see this. Gravity? I did not like it, man.
With her and my boy.
I was in the minority of
Dapper
people
Dan Man.
Yeah,
Clooney.
I know a lot of people that love that movie, and oh my goodness, I was like, okay.
You didn't like it?
Nah, and it's one of those. If I remember that movie correctly, it was like I think the point was she was in space, she got detached, and she's left alone for a while,
like a spacewalk,
and then she kind of like goes crazy a little bit. I think like it just wasn't for me. I'm like,
yeah, somebody get shot.
Somebody get not enough bang bang and pew pew in this movie.
Yeah, it's like my wife, man. She can't the long buildups. We recently watched James Cameron's Aliens recently, and the first 45 minutes of that movie. It's all prep, baby. It's all setting the pieces in place, and she gets bored.
It was that movie is very, very especially the first one.
Yeah,
that movie is very slow in the beginning. Very slow. They're slow walking you into that world that is that might not be for you. Yeah. I liked it as a kid. Watching it as I got older, I was like, man, I didn't remember how long it took for this to actually build up and get to like, let's go. I forgot how long between the robot that, what they thought he was human, right? Like for a while, and then he's a robot, and then The visual effects there were dope.
I just
everything,
can't-
a lot of practical stuff.
They built everything, and I think that's what movies are really lacking these days. Everything is just so shiny and beautiful and perfect. And those older movies, it was like they had to build this shit. And,
That's
you
what
know,
made the Star Wars one special. Remember when they went in there, CG Jabba the Hutt sliding around?
dude. Yeah, in the first Star Wars movie, the special editions, I was like, yeah, it doesn't really fit, guys.
And on Disney Plus, they don't have the originals, right?
No, they don't.
If I remember,
it's the
that
latest
was
iteration. It's the latest
It
iteration
was the
of
one
those
with
movies.
the CG. It's like the one where
Yeah.
Hayden Christensen is Darth Vader instead of
come
Darth
on.
Vader as Darth Vader. Like when he comes back as the
I
ghost.
can kind of get on board with that kind of thing to kind of maybe tie up a few loose bows between the prequels and all that. But yeah, going back in, he's
You know what
famous.
ties? You know what
He's
ties up
famous for
what
meddling.
ties up a loose end with that is the name Anakin Skywalker. He
Yeah.
got older. Like that's
Yeah. He looks a little different now.
yeah. Did they replace? They didn't replace Obi-Wan Kenobi, did they?
No.
In the
That's
ghost
just-
form?
No,
That's-
because you saw him in those movies. You never saw Darth Vader's actual face in the original trilogy. He was always in the mask until the very end.
Will you take it off? Yeah. So it doesn't make sense.
Put Hayden Christensen in that last scene. That'd be funny. Can you imagine? Remember at the end of Return of the Jedi, Luke, is trying to escape the Death Star before it blows up with his father, who just killed the Emperor and came back to the light side.
Yeah.
He goes,
Take off this mask. I want to see you with my own eyes.
he's got that weird voice.
Yeah.
He takes it off. Can you imagine they put Hayden Christensen in there and he's just like,
I'd be surprised they didn't.
yeah, man.
Like it's terrible makeup.
Apparently, a lot of Hollywood directors like to, if they had their way, they'd go back and continue to tinker and tinker and tinker. They're like these,
That's how it is in the music world.
it's like, dude, it can
Like, the
always
mix
be,
is never done.
It's never
It's
done.
never
You just kind of
finished.
have to. There's a cutoff, and it's
You just
like,
have to turn it in at one point. Like
there
they
it
give you a
goes.
due date because otherwise it would never come out.
It's funny. I watch some of our older stuff, and from Tsunami, and I'm like, man, if I can go back and do that one again, I'd do some things differently, or. But that's all part of the journey, as they say, the journey.
Oh, it is. You have to grow.
Yeah.
You gotta have room to make mistakes and stuff.
Yeah, Lucas, man, he redid those freaking movies. He's still doing them. When they released on Disney Plus, he made a couple of changes. Or there was a new version with the McClunky, that whole thing with the Han shot first. They were adding stuff, dude. There's new stuff in these movies.
Oh yeah, no, I thought you meant like since they got put on Disney Plus, they knew new stuff.
Oh no, when they went to Disney
Yeah,
Plus,
yeah.
when Disney Plus first launched, there was like a new version of A New Hope. There was like an added voice line in the Greedo scene in the cantina when you first meet Han Solo. Right before Han Solo
sounds vaguely
goes,
familiar,
I
yeah.
bet you would. Right before they shut it. And you just randomly hear this ADR. He was like, McClunky. And then they shoot. And everyone was like, the fuck is McClunky? What? What are we talking about? And George was like, well, yeah, that's the language of Greedo. It's like, what? Dude, leave it alone, damn it. Leave it alone, man.
Nah.
Jeez. The director's cut, all these directors cut, the Zack Snyder cut.
Yeah, you seen that they're trying to get like they want director's cuts of like other movies too now.
I know, right?
For the longest when I was
We're
growing
all
up,
out of ideas, guys. We're instead of making new
But
and
I-
exciting things, we're going back in time.
you know what's funny to me? Like the director's cuts never really meant anything. Like they weren't that. It was like just theatrical version.
Yeah.
Like, the director's cut felt like the stuff that I get why they cut that stuff out.
Right. It's always 9 times out of 10. It's stuff that hit the cutting room floor, as they call it, where it was like it didn't really serve the story. It was padding. It was too much.
We
but
watched the
people love
deleted
that crap.
scenes a lot, and a lot of times, well, yeah, it makes sense. They should take that
no.
out, take that out, and then very rarely it's like they should have left that in. That adds context to whatever the heck happened afterwards. But
Well, then you have movies like, well, we're talking about Star Wars, like the newer Star Wars movies, where apparently there's a J.J. Abrams cut of the last movie, which had a lot more stuff in it that fleshed out that story, so it didn't feel like this the entire time.
this can't become a trend.
Just at a breakneck pace for
can't.
2.5 hours.
Well, you know what? I don't have to buy it, and I won't.
No.
It just can't become a trend. This is silly to me. That this whole director's cut and the no.
I didn't know what the big deal was with this Zack Snyder's Justice League cut.
I don't know what the big deal is with DC altogether. It's whack.
But I looked into it, and it's like, wow, I didn't realize what happened. I guess Joss Whedon took over so Zack Snyder started the movie, and he had this whole, he was trying to do the whole cinematic universe like Marvel did. So he was setting it up with Man of Steel and Batman vs Superman and all this, and he had a vision. And I guess very early on in production in that movie, something happened, like an emergency in the family. Somebody, died or something, and he had to leave. And they brought in Joss Whedon from Marvel and threw him in the mix. And he had a very different version and spent like a crazy amount of money doing reshoots on Zack Snyder's stuff. and just like changing the tone of the movie and making it more like kid pop friendly. And even though Zack Snyder was kind of doing the more darker kind of comic book thing, it's wild the amount of money spent making the original Justice League and then going back and doing it all over again. Like, what?
But none of those movies, I don't get the whole. I don't get it. I don't get it. The same way people like Marvel and you don't get it, and then you don't like DC or whatever. Like that whole conflict, Ford versus Corvette and stuff like. DC versus Marvel, I don't get it, because the whole Marvel thing is like, the DC movies, was any of them good enough to warrant releasing this whole Snyder cut thing like that? No. Those first two were amazing. Batman vs Superman was so amazing that we better see.
I heard it was panned. People didn't like it.
I saw it. It was decent. It wasn't on the level of like, you know what happened is like Guardians of the Galaxy and stuff like that. Like they really raised the bar between the music, the production. It was funny, the action, serious. They had a good balance of serious, kid friendly with more mature themes. They hit everything because Disney doesn't play around. I've said that a bajillion times before. It's like, I don't know why people sleep on Disney. Like, okay, you don't like the mouse and the kid stuff, but Disney does not make poor freaking entertainment pieces. Like they don't. Their films, everything, their parks, everything they do is like top of the
notch.
line.
Yeah, top
They don't
notch.
play. They're writers. They get the right team. We said it before. I have like when Pirates of the Caribbean came out, people were like, "Oh, that's gonna be terrible." It's like, it's Disney.
Yeah,
They know how to tell a story.
Off the
Like,
hook,
they
too.
know how to tell a story, and they're not afraid to go tell new stories either.
When was the last time you went to Disney World?
Oh, years,
Yeah.
many years ago, way before the Star Wars thing was even built. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember. I honestly don't remember.
I went one time as a kid. Me, my mom, my dad, and my sister, and we went.
Yeah, we went 2 or 3 times, but the thing with Disney is like you spend so much more time walking than actually doing stuff. It's more like a sightseeing trip.
Isn't it wild? Like
than
these days,
than a roller coaster thing.
At amusement parks, you have to buy if you want to like get the most of it. You got to buy those fast pass, get to the front of the line. But now that caught on, and now everybody's got fast pass. So
Yeah, they
it's
got
like-
different levels too. If I remember right, you download the app and you can sign up, and then it tells you go over there, go back in an hour or whatever that, which is cool.
Yeah.
But no, I'm not with that whole shit. You go to a park, you pay over $100 a person now. I think it's over $100 a person
for the day.
Yeah, for one park, it's like 125 or something like that.
And with those kinds of lines, maybe it's different. Maybe it's a little different now because of COVID. But like but pre-COVID, it was like you're gonna stand in line for 2 hours for that roller coaster. So there's 2
some of
hours of
them
your
were
day
more.
gone.
Some of them were more. Like when the ride first comes out, they were waiting 4 hours, 5 hours. Like, oh, so you just did that and nothing else.
Dude, the one thing I remember from my Disney trip, the thing that sticks out, I don't know why, not the rides, not the food, not the time with family. This is what sticks out to me. There's a military hotel there close to the park. It's called Shades of Green. Shades of Green. Anyway, so if you're active duty military, you could stay there. Boom, boom, boom. They had a Mickey Mouse pool. So it was like in the shape of Mickey Mouse's head, right? With the ears and all that. And what I remember from this trip, and I don't know why, and it's right here, I'm looking at these kids, is me and my sister were in the pool, and there were these 2 German kids, like our age, these 2 brothers, and they were really round, Humpty Dumpty looking kids, and they were in these little tight little black Speedos. And they were like frolicking around the pool and, speaking German, and it was so funny. And I just laughed thinking about it, because like really, that's what I choose to remember. That's really what I choose.
You remember? It's interesting. You remember the boys?
The boys in the Speedos, the little chubby boys. To me and my wife,
That would stick out culturally. It's
yeah,
just
it
not
was
what
it was
we
very
do.
strange. I was like 10 years old. I was just like, that's odd. Me and my wife were on a walk the other night, and I got a whiff of something. It was like a barbecue or something. And you smell something and it triggers a memory.
Yeah.
She knew a lot about that, and she told me all about it. I can't eloquently put it like she did, but apparently your gland, something is very close to your long-term memory bank. Like there's some kind of connection. She was like, yeah, I read an article on it. And I was like, that's cool. But it is true. It's always like old memories. It's nothing like you smell some, oh man, that reminds me of last month. Oh man. It's always something from way
that
back.
reminds you of last
I
month.
got
It's
into
funny.
the elevator over at the aquarium the other day, and I walk in the elevator. I'm by myself, and I close the door, and I got this smell, and it like instantly. I haven't thought of this memory in probably 20 years. It just all of a sudden it was like I'm back at the beach with my mom as a kid, just me and her, and that suntan lotion in the pink bottle with the little girl with the dog pulling down her little brief. that was, and I just remember my mom shaking that up and globbing it all over me.
Yeah.
And down there, at the Virginia Beach oceanfront. So that, it was just crazy. Like all of a sudden I was just right there. And then I'm in the elevator and I'm like thinking about it. And I'm like, man, I just remember like all these coolers around. It was like the 80s, late 80s, early 90s. And it was just really cool, man. It's interesting how that works. And I hadn't thought of that in forever, dude. So kind of neat, man.
It's the smell.
It's the smell, dude.
It's saturated by it.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, can you imagine? Oh, this brings me back to the spring of last year. No, it's always like years and years and years ago. Years ago.
Yeah, I wonder how much is trapped in there.
Yeah, you start thinking about it. It's like, how does that even work? Like, it's a cool mental exercise. And we take these walks and we talk about everything. And I was like, you ever just try to think of a time way back and then just like really like close your eyes and just try to get there again and like try to look around? Like I was thinking about my old house. We lived in Fallon, Nevada, of all places, for a little while my dad was a fighter pilot. So he was out there doing the whole Top Gun thing. And we lived in Fallon, Nevada, in this little desert town. And so many crazy memories. And I could still go there and like in my head and like, maybe not so much the layout of the house. That's a little foggy, but it's like the backyard where I spent a lot of time, riding my bike on our little street, the kid that lived across the street, just wild memories. Like there was these plants, like these desert plants that I would like, it looked like a bulb or, like a green bulb, and you would pull it out and it had these really cool roots. And I would like make mud and I would dip them in there, and then I'd go on the fence and I would like paint with it. And like make pictures and things like this. And I was thinking about that the other day when I was falling asleep, and I was like, man, it's wild that I can still recall that kind of thing.
Yeah.
In very great detail too. How does it work?
I don't know. We're going to find out this weekend when we go to New York. I was looking at the map. I can still remember. I was telling my mom, I was pointing out, I was like, if you go here, you walk down this street, you turn here, this is where the school was. And then you go here, you walk down here, this is where grandma used to live. And it's like, it's crazy, like, to remember those things.
You still got it.
I still remember it. Still remember what that apartment looks like. Still remember how to get there, how to walk those streets and go different places. And we lived close to each other. It's like 2-3 blocks away. I remember where the old church was at, where a laundromat was at, where we went to Head Start preschool. It's wild. It's wild. It's going to be crazy to take the kids through there and walk through there and show them, like, yeah, we should live in that building right there. Like,
that's crazy.
Yeah.
It's we took a trip to DC a couple years ago, and I went back to my old apartment, walked right out front of my old apartment that I used to live in. I was just like, was this real life? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it just seems so long ago and like a distant alternate reality, And it's like, man, no, I used to sit right there on those freaking steps and smoke and joke with my friends, and I lived there. There was a whole life there. Before any of this. The 20s, man, when you're in your 20s, it's just like, did that even happen? It's just like, what? I just talked to a really good friend of mine from those days, my early days in the Marine Corps. This is like 2004, 2005. And I saw him on Facebook, and he was doing something funny on Facebook, and I heard his voice. We talked about this. I hadn't heard this guy's voice in years.
Oh, yeah.
And it was like I heard his voice, and I saw him, and I was just like, oh man, I remember you. There was like a whole world. There was like a whole world back then that just doesn't exist anymore. It's crazy to think about, man.
Yeah, no.
It's wild. That'll be really interesting. I'm looking forward to hearing how that trip goes and going back there and checking it out.
I don't know if I take a camera. I don't know.
You got a phone, dude. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I know, that's the thing.
Yeah, nah.
And you find that in these quick moments, it's like to be fooling around with a camera sometimes. It's like,
get my shutter speed right.
It's just not worth it.
No, it's really not, dude. It's not worth it, man. It's not worth it. That's the beautiful thing about these, dude. I mean, it's wild. I got a whole year's worth of memories on here, man. You ever just get on your camera roll and just go to the very top, see how far back it goes?
Yeah, you ever see the video that they make by themselves, like the little the automated one with the little music
on this day, memories. Yeah, dude, I'll sit there and go, some of them better than others.
Yeah, some of them are good.
Some of them are better than others. Some of them, it's like, oh, wow. Like, they knew that I was out of town, and it was like, your weekend in Richmond. I'm like,
yeah.
Big Brother's watching. Yeah, man.
You give your phone that permission. You give Facebook that permission. You relinquish all of that.
I start looking at like look at this kid right here, dude. Like look at that.
That's nuts.
Gary Busey.
That's nuts.
That's Gary Busey
Somebody
right there,
hair.
dude. Yeah, dude. Like what happened? It's like I look at that and I'm like, man, where has the time gone? Let's just say the last 3 or 4 years. Like, wow, it's wild. Then there's this guy that I found on the internet that has literally been.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I sent that to him. He's like, what the hell?
That's a lot like him.
Doppelgangers. Doppelgangers, man. Memories.
That will forever remind me of New York.
Cats.
That remind me of New York. As a kid, I remember that song a lot.
Cats was huge for a while.
Huge on Broadway.
They tried to revive it. Fail.
I heard that was terrible.
A fail.
With James Corden.
Jason Derulo was in it.
Like, I didn't know. I just
Taylor Swift.
Everything was a bunch of CG,
Ian
right?
McKellen.
Oh, was he?
Judi Dench. These were like real actors. Oh man. But anyway, yeah, Cats. I remember my parents used to play the Cats soundtrack in the 90s. Like the early 90s, like 93, 94. And it was like they'd be playing Cats.
I don't know if you remember that play, but it was essentially just a long introduction to every cat. I was like watching it when I was old. I was like, "Oh, this is terrible."
You're like, "There's no arc here. There's no
it's nothing." They just it would go from like they do an opening song, and then each cat had its own introduction. Like I'm this one, and I'm that one, and I'm like, yeah, but what's happening? Like, and then like at the very end, it's like, okay, here's a little bit of a story. It's like, oh, we spent an hour and a half introducing each person, and then 20 minutes telling a story. Like,
you ever see any shows in New York? Broadway shows live in New York?
Nah, I wanted to do the whole Lion King thing, but it was too expensive between
you should go see
getting
a show
over there and doing all that stuff.
I went and I've seen a few. I saw a chorus line of all Broadway musicals. A chorus line. It was freaking awesome, dude. Them performers, those cats are wild. So talented, man. It's really cool to go see a show like that. I haven't been, I mean, it's probably 10, 15 years since I saw a show. We should go up and do that.
Well, we got lucky the time we're going now because coincidentally, we didn't even know. When I checked the information for New York, they said as of April 1st is when they open stuff back up. As far as you can go there and not have to quarantine. Before then, they expected you to go from out of state. You had to quarantine for 2 weeks.
Oh,
I was like, we got real lucky.
Oh, you just made that cutoff.
Yeah, no, just barely. And it wasn't even on purpose. It was like, oh, cool. Like, it works out.
Wow.
But I'm looking forward to it. I'm not looking forward to so much driving, but I told everybody, you got to plan. I mean, ideally, you want to do something like that. That city's so big, you got to see it like in a week if you want to go see everything.
Well, and it's like you can't even see everything, you know?
Yeah,
you
no.
can see a lot of the big stuff.
I told him realistically, we're going to see 2-3 things and that's it. Like, and just be content with that. If you want to see more, you're going to have to come back another day. Like,
yo, the parks in Central Park, like for the kids, like the actual like parks with slides and stuff, was off the hook. So awesome, dude. The big rock structures and all these beautiful boulders they can climb all over. We spent like 3 hours there one day when we were in New York, just hanging out in Central Park. Watching the guy make the big bubbles. And
you see a lot of parts that movies were filmed there. The end of John Wick 2 or 1 was filmed there, like right there by the water fountain. The big water fountain. They got some steps you go down or whatever. It's a lot of iconic movies were there.
Yeah, man.
Looking forward to it. I'll
That's
have
exciting.
Pictures and such. And
yeah, no, I'm excited to
and I'll be exhausted.
Yeah, no, it's like the older you get, you could still do those things, but it's like the recovery time just gets longer. You know, it's like you get back from a trip like that, like, give me like 2 days.
This is the first time I go with so many people too. The family's gotten bigger.
Yeah.
Like my buddy Odias, he was like, man, you know, I wish you guys could stay here. I was like, I'm going up there with 6 people.
You don't want us.
Like, I'm not. I appreciate it. I was like, I will stay with you when I'm by myself. Like when I make the trip.
Can you get away for a night?
What, just me? Nah, I'm going up there to chaperone.
Oh, come on, man.
I can't get away. Nah.
Even for a dinner?
Oh no, we're good. We're gonna go hang out with him. We're gonna meet and everything and go to the house and stuff and hang out. Yeah, for sure.
All right, good.
Nah, but I want to do the trip where it's just eventually it's just like maybe me and my brother or something like that. And then
that'd be cool. That'd be cool.
Then we could just stay over there and do the silly stuff and
just hang out.
Maybe watch a movie or something. He always wanted to do that. So let's go watch a movie. Like, nah, it's not on a trip. I could watch a movie at home. Like, trying to go walk around the city and see that stuff. So We will see.
Everybody's got their, we got to go to this place. I got to take you here. I got to do this. I feel like Virginia Beach doesn't really have that. Like somebody comes and visits me, I'm like, I could take you to the big mountain of fucking trash down the road.
I've taken people to the aquarium. When I had the membership,
Mount
I would take people to
Trashmore.
the aquarium to see that.
Yeah. The beach, the oceanfront is nice.
It's all right.
The oceanfront is nice.
I haven't gone there in years.
It's a nice beach. You haven't been down there in a year, really?
To the actual beach?
Yeah.
Years.
Really?
Years. Over 10 years.
Oh man, I feel like if I don't go every once in a while, I'm like, why am I even here?
To the actual sand.
Yeah. I remember when Virginia Beach did they made the beach bigger. Do you remember this? Mm-hmm. That was a freaking process. They made the beach like 100 yards long.
It's way bigger.
Like it's so wide now.
Yeah.
Well, it's gotten a lot shorter than but it was massive. Or at least there was a stretch of it. It was like, from Rudy all the way down to like, I don't know.
Yeah, I haven't touched that sand.
Like that. Oh man, you got to go.
We went for the lights, the Christmas lights. Mm-hmm. We did the drive around thing there, but
that's fun on the boardwalk. I like that.
The actual sand, no, I can't remember. I
feel
feel like,
are you not? Well, you're not really a beach kind of guy anyway.
No, I never. Even as a kid, it wasn't too much of a big deal to me. I didn't care for it too much.
I feel like I came from the water, dude.
Well, you did because you were a bacteria, and then you became a tadpole, and then
there's just something about being in the ocean, dude. Like just being out there in the freaking ocean.
It's cool. I mean, it's fun, but it's never been my thing where it's like I gotta go to the beach.
Yeah, it's harder with kids too. You got a bunch of sandy ass kids.
Even as a teenager, like when I first started driving, it was never a thing to like let's go hang out at the beach. Like never.
Yeah,
I don't remember what I was doing. We were hanging out from house to house. It was never going to the beach.
Yeah. I kind of had an excuse. Like when I was in Hawaii and stuff, I was surfing a lot. I had something to go and do. Going to the beach to just lay on the beach, not really a big fan of that. I like doing stuff at the beach. You know?
I think the culture of Virginia Beach, at least the crowd I was around, wasn't real beach. Like that wasn't the real life. I think now, because I say that because now I'm thinking like if I lived in Puerto Rico, I think I'd spend like every day on the beach. There's a culture that like that's just what you do. Like you're out on the beach. Like that's part of your lifestyle.
Well, it's like Hawaii.
Yeah,
that's a big part of who they are.
It's like here, it's got that mix of city and that beach there if you want it.
It just seems like a tourist trap down there, doesn't it? You know what I mean? It's just like
part of it too is like I don't think our boardwalk is all that attractive in terms of things to do there.
There's not much to do.
It's like the beach. That's it. There's not other things there. Like you can't walk down the boardwalk and do other things. So I think about New York when I was a kid. Coney Island, you go to like Brighton Beach over there. There's a whole beach you can go to if you choose to go in that filth that it was back then. It was trash everywhere. Ugh. But there's the beach there. But then they had an entire permanent like theme park on Coney Island. And you got roller coasters and stuff. So it's like there's things to do besides just. So Virginia Beach is like you go there if you're going to get in the water. Yeah. Other than that, there's no. The shopping is cheesy. It's 100% for tourists.
It's all kitschy
to go
crap.
Get the I Love Virginia Beach and whatever stuff. There's nothing there. Like I don't. There's some high end restaurants, but it's like I don't know. I don't feel like there's a mix of attractive things for me to be like, yo, we're gonna go spend the weekend at the boardwalk.
Yeah, right? Do a little staycation.
Like Atlantic City's different. There's a ton of stuff to do there. You can go to. It's funny. You go to Atlantic City, you don't touch that sand. It's like I want to spend the time on the boardwalk. But Virginia Beach is that way to where it's like I don't think it's enough stuff to do.
You make a very good point. It's like you could obviously beach activities. You go in the water, but it's like you can rent those buggies and drive up and down the boardwalk in those little. They look like a circus mobile. You know what I'm talking about? Where everybody pedals. You could do that.
It's like it's not, and the weather. And the weather here is not conducive to like when we went to California. There, I would probably spend more time at the beach because the weather was crazy.
Yeah, it's perfect.
It was perfect to sit out there and talk. And there's
it's not 100 degrees with 90% humidity and just beating you to death.
And they had skate parks on the beach, like on the beach, and they had like basketball courts on the beach. Like Virginia Beach is not that way. There's stuff like close, but there's stuff that was like on the beach. Like you're walking down the boardwalk and there's a skate park and there's a basketball court and there's all this stuff and
cool little shopping experiences and cool little people selling food and
you got to have a boardwalk to support it. Virginia Beach is a ton of kitschy shops and a bunch of hotels.
Sensations.
A ton of hotels.
Sensations.
They've got the iFly thing over there, which I don't recommend it in terms of it's way too expensive for what you do. It's cool to do once, but I say spend your money doing something else.
Are they still doing Beach Street USA? That whole thing? You know what this is?
Yeah, I know.
During the summertime, there
entertainment and stuff.
Atlantic Avenue turns into just foot traffic for the most part, and they have live music and bands and jugglers and all kinds of crap. I used to perform down there, so that's cool. But again, that's on the other side of the boardwalk. That's on Atlantic. You know
It is, I mean? and it's a limited
They got the haunted
time.
houses down there. You ever do a haunted house?
I did it once and I didn't see the big deal. I didn't get it.
I've never done a haunted house.
It's not for me. It's not. It's people in costumes yelling at you and
It's
banging on stuff.
jump scares and things like that.
Yeah, not because you just expect it. It's kind of like set up in, at least down there. I mean, I don't know. People like that. I seen. I don't know if you ever seen on the internet these extreme haunted houses that they have. Like
What's
they got
that?
some in upstate New York,
What
and
is
they
that?
got stuff
What are you extreme? Wait a minute.
like extreme. Like you got to sign a waiver, and there's like
whoa, what?
they're like there's like
what?
safe words, and there's like you have to like.
What?
They will chase you with like chainsaws and pour fake blood on you and tie you down and put worms on you and like people love that stuff. I'm like, it ain't for me. Like it's not. But they got that stuff.
That's
like,
crazy.
They have like extreme haunted house experiences or whatever.
That's crazy.
One of them,
I didn't know that.
One of them was on Shark Tank.
Really?
Like pitching to get more money. They wanted to like, dude, like they said how much money they get a year and we want to open up another location. They were like, this is incredible. And then I went on YouTube and looked. I was like, that is horrific. Like the
like
stuff
you're
they
in
do.
a horror movie.
Yeah, no, they like tie people down and they like people are yelling like, "Get me out of here!" And it's like if you don't say like the safe word, we're not getting you out of here. Like, and it's like you sign a contract like a waiver, like we are going to touch you, we're going to grab you, we're going to throw you, we're going to.
Oh my god!
It's like
People are so fucked up, man.
Yeah, no.
Like, who wants to go do that? I don't know.
That reminds you of I haven't done an escape room. I had
I
a
have
few
not
friends
done
that
one of
said-
those either.
They said they like that. It's like a family thing, and they have different levels. Like
I feel like you would probably murder a safe room
I'll probably murder someone in a safe room and then have a double experience.
when they're when they're not holding their weight. Oh,
yeah, no,
that's funny.
it's. I guess I would do it. I hear good things. It's just a good family thing. Who figures
You
it
know
out
what's
first?
really
or whatever.
popular? Well, I don't even want to say it's really popular, but I'm seeing more of it. Is this axe throwing? What is with white people throwing axes? What is this? They're very into this axe throwing thing.
People want to tap into their primal
I say
nature.
white people. I'm just messing around.
It is typically
a certain demographic. But I'm like,
there's a reason why there's no axe throwing in, Atlantis apartments or Diamond Springs or
who's throwing axes?
Or
Like, I don't know.
Norfolk.
I guess tweets throwing. I talk a lot of shit, but let me tell you something. I really enjoy going and finding a bar that has shuffleboard.
Be all over that shuffleboard court.
That shuffleboard, baby.
Yeah, no, that's cool. I see those a
Shuffleboard
lot
is
in
fun.
Norfolk.
Dude, here's a funny story. I had a good friend of mine in the Marine Corps when I was in Hawaii, and he was kind of cool. He never really hung out with a lot of people, but one day I was like, dude, you got to come hang out with us, man. We have so much fun. We play shuffleboard. We go to this place, and he's like, they got shuffleboard? I'm like, yeah, dude, they got shuffleboard. He's like, you know what? We'll come. Where am I going?
That's a real thing.
I was like, here we go. Lulu. Yeah, we're going to Lulu's down in Waikiki. We're going to go do it. He gets there and he's very disappointed because he thought
It's with the stick.
with the fucking the cruise ship shuffleboard. And no, this is the shuffleboard on the table with the salt.
That's got to be called
with
something else,
discs. No, that's shuffleboard, baby.
Because I know shuffleboard is that. We played that on the cruise
See, he goes,
with the
he
big
starts,
old disc.
He starts laughing, and I was like, "What's up, man?" I got like a cocktail. I'm like, "Hey, shuffleboard," and he's just like, "Okay." I thought you meant like actual shuffleboard.
shuffleboard.
So what is that called?
That's got to be called table shuffleboard or something. That's like telling somebody you want to go play tennis and you take them to a bar and there's a ping pong table. It's like it's kind of what you did to that guy there. Like,
So okay, hold on. Yeah, see. Okay, so that's maybe called shuffleboard tables.
what's bocce board? Bocce
No,
ball.
bocce ball is where you take big balls.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And you roll them in the grass, and you try to knock people out of the circle,
Yeah.
or not the circle. You take the
Because there's a shuffleboard type game that has like pegs in it too. I seen that. There's all kinds of
Are
stuff.
you thinking bumper pool?
Bumper pool? Is that
You
what that
ever
is?
play bumper pool?
Maybe that's what it is.
I used to play bumper pool at the Princess Anne Rec Center, dude.
Cause I'm thinking about like on the cruise. So the Disney, we don't go to the parks, so we go to the boats a lot.
Yeah.
We go as often as we can. It's
Yeah.
been a few years for that, but I think we went on 3 or 4 at this point. My parents went on way more. But they have a bunch of those like bar games,
Big kind of games, yeah.
ton of them.
Yeah.
And that's one that's like it's like it looks like the pinball bumper. It's in there, and it might be with a stick that you hit it with.
Cool.
Yeah.
Bocce ball's fun. You ever play horseshoes?
Yeah. Horseshoes
is
The,
kinda
what do you call that? You throw the sand sack.
Cornhole. Sand sack.
The beanbag.
Cornhole is this generation's horseshoes. I remember growing up in my house over at Red Mill, and my dad would have his old
cornhole is a big deal.
It's a very big deal. My dad would be in the backyard. He put 2 stakes in, and they would play horseshoes, and they were like super into it. He'd have all his fighter pilot buddies over, and they'd be smoking cigars and drinking beer and doing horseshoes. And little 9-year-old Matt would be out there like in the treehouse watching horseshoes. Man, I don't see many horseshoes these days. It's all the sand sacks. It's all the sand sacks now. Dude, they got sand sack. That is now, it is no longer cornhole. It's sand sacks. Dude, they got professional sand sack on ESPN, dude. And would you guess that they're all 25-year-old white dudes?
The sand sacks is funny. And they spin them too. They spin them and dude, they can go around.
They get real into it. It's like, it's like, okay, it's on ESPN. What?
Is gaming a sport?
Is gaming, what do you mean? Video gaming?
Is gaming a sport?
It's not a traditional physical sport. Should it be on ESPN? Is poker on ESPN? It is, isn't it? Is Sandsack on ESPN? Yes, it is. Will I watch Rocket League? Some of the best players in the world. If that's on ESPN, I'm going to sit down and watch Rocket League, baby. I think competition is exciting to watch at any kind of competition at that high of a level. I think is very entertaining to watch. Don't give a shit, dude. Is driving a sport?
Oh yeah, no,
going left.
Yeah, it's like it's funny. Traditionally, anything where you're physically doing something was like that's the sport.
That's the barrier.
Like that was the sport. Like when you're sitting with a controller, that ain't really like.
It's not really a sport.
It's still a level of skill though. Like it's like where do we stop? Do we put checkers in the Olympics? Like what?
Wasn't the chess in the Olympics?
I don't know. I seen Tony Hawk was like tearing up and excited that skateboarding is going to be like
going to get in there
in the Olympics. Like
get in there.
I feel like that's tough. That's one of those like when you're scoring for ballet and stuff. It's so subjective.
Yeah. There's a lot of style.
Yeah, no,
there's a lot of art in that.
It's not like points. Like it's not like I made 4 baskets and you made 2. Like
I can get skateboarding. It's like you can assign different difficulty levels for moves, and then if you
but at some point you're gonna have to score how clean you think it was, how original it was.
Well, it's like surfing. I'm a big surfer, and I used to watch professional surf competitions a lot, and it's very subjective there too.
Yeah,
and
like Dancing with the Stars,
surfing an Olympic contest, and I'm like, the only way you can do that is if you do man-made waves.
You have to. It's not fair. Yeah,
it's not fair. It's like but
somebody
that's kind of the allure of surfing. It's like you have to wait. Dude, the world of professional surfing is nuts. Like all of a sudden there's a big swell somewhere, and there's what they do. They have windows of opportunity for these contests. We're like, it's like Pipeline in Hawaii. They call it Pipe Masters. It's a surf break on the North Shore of Oahu. And they're like, from November to February, if it's breaking good enough, we'll just call you. And people from all over the world will fly in overnight, and they'll hold Pipe Masters.
Yeah.
It's freaking wild, though. But you'd have to do like a man-made wave. I think that would be the...
Yeah, you'd have to.
Yeah.
Because I feel like in those competitions, I never even seen one, but I kind of imagine that the one that would get the most flair is the one with the biggest wave, and that's not up to you. Mm-hmm. Like if you could ride the biggest one.
There's like positioning and like, all this things. But again, it's Mother Nature, dude. It's like you don't know what she's going to do.
An old friend of mine, Dave from Hermes, he surfs a lot, and he was explaining. It's funny, I know nothing about it, but he was explaining to me it's actually incredibly tiring. He's like, first you gotta prep your board. He's like, you sit out there, you're prepping it. You gotta check you gotta wear different gear depending on whatever. He's like, I go when it's cold. He's like, I go when it's cold, so I gotta put on a suit. I gotta prep my board. He's like, you gotta swim all the way out there. He's like, a lot of people get exhausted just swimming out there, and you gotta sit up on that thing and wait. You gotta wait. And then when that thing's coming, you gotta get on it. You gotta swim as hard as you can. You gotta stand up. He was like, it's very exhausting. He's like, and then you gotta go and do it again.
Some of the best shape I've ever been in my life was when I was surfing, dude. But all of what you just described is accurate. But for me, that's like part of it. There's just this thing about surfing where it's like the weather's the swell's got to be right. You got to know your break. You got to know what direction the wind is coming from, which way that swell is coming from. You go out there. There's ebbs and flows, man. Yeah, you'll go out there and wait for a set for 15 minutes, and you'll just sit there and stare at the horizon, and then everybody's out there just quiet, dude. You just hear like the water lapping on the boards, and like maybe you're quiet talking between friends, and then all of a sudden, everybody will just look to the horizon and start seeing that bump, and then everybody starts paddling out. further. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and everybody's jockeying to get into position. And dude, surfing is no joke. There is a serious hierarchy, if you don't know this. For nobody that's ever surfed before, like actually like surfing, like made it a real hobby. And you know, there's a pecking order, dude. And like with positioning and etiquette, it's like, it's wild. People will fight you, like physically fight you. They will throw their board at you. They'll
I didn't wait out here all day for you to jump in front of me.
the parking lot. And it's so hot and cold surfing, because surfing in its purest form is just total fun.
Yeah.
It's just fun. So there were many times where I pissed off a lot of people in Hawaii when I was first learning how to surf. Like I got good enough where I could like just go out and find places to go surf and start surfing. And yeah, if you don't know that etiquette, dude, with positioning and you know right of way, and you could really freaking hurt somebody.
Oh yeah.
You could really hurt somebody. I think that's why people get really upset, especially on bigger days. You go out there and you're fucking around. It's like, dude, you're gonna get somebody really hurt.
Yeah.
But yeah, surfing, dude, it's I miss it. I haven't done it since I moved back to Virginia. I haven't done it. I've wanted to, but I'm like, in Virginia Beach, it's like the water is absolutely frigid. You gotta get a wetsuit, and I'm like. I learned to surf in Hawaii, so I'm like out in little boy board shorts, and that's it. You know, freeing, dude. I don't want to put on a hat and booties and the feet things and go out there and freeze my balls off for a couple hours. You know, I don't want to do that.
Yeah, no, I hear great stories about being out.
For a bunch of little 1-2 foot waves in Virginia Beach. Come on, man. No, thank you.
There's always people got different experiences that are nice and some are horrifying. Like I heard nice stuff, like people are like out on jet skis. And they'll hear the door ringing.
Keep going.
And who's that?
We'll be right back. Hold on.
Yeah, no.
No, really, we're recording. It's like, nah.
Yeah, no. We're going to take a break here and answer a door. And we're back.
One of our neighbors helped us out. Look at this. $4,000 for that freaking shuffleboard table. Imagine spending $4,000 on a shuffleboard table. Oh my gosh, look at this. I mean, they're very beautiful. But anyway.
That's one of those things you need a ton of room for. It's like a pool table.
Oh, it's massive.
You get a pool table.
It's
you're bumping
massive.
in the
You
walls
don't realize
and
how
stuff.
big they are. They're huge.
No, that's why, no
they're
pool
huge.
tables in my house. No table tennis, none of that stuff. Video games.
Yeah.
Backed up against walls. You don't need much space. I got the arcade machine. I want to get another one. They had a arcade one up, which makes cheap arcade cabinets. It makes reviews because if you play the real arcade, you know that is a huge downgrade. But again, you pay for what you get. There's a reason those machines cost like $2,000-$3,000. These are costing $400. But they got the Marvel vs. Capcom machine.
Dope.
And I need that in my life.
Story of our childhood,
I need that in my life.
Story
Dropping
of our childhood.
quarters. It's like the
Aladdin's
etiquette. You
Castle.
talk about surfing etiquette. The etiquette was.
That's your spot. That's your
My
spot
quarter.
in line.
That's why, and you knew which one was your quarter.
Yeah.
It's a line of quarters, and you knew which one was yours.
No, that one's mine. The one with the grime all over it, with the nice patina.
Move.
That one's mine.
Move. That's a nice experience growing up. Talk about
kids don't get that anymore.
That's how you know that belongs on ESPN. When you're sitting there on one quarter and you're knocking people down, like who's next? Who's next? So that you sit it. Who's next? Who's next? Keep spending quarters. Go
and
ahead.
You know what's funny? You can't be you could be toxic if you wanted to.
Oh, you could,
but not like you can on the internet, baby, because you're standing next to somebody in real life.
Yeah, come get it. I'll pay for your next round. Come get it.
For
again.
all those kids out there that don't watch the show, we used to stand in line and put a quarter on a cabinet.
And crowd a cabinet. Like I remember the Aladdin's Castle days. You'd crowd a cat. Like there'd be like 20 people like looking over each other, like watching the fight. Like
and then people, whoa,
whoa. Wild scene. It would always be around like Tekken, Tekken 3, and like X-Men vs. Street Fighter, Marvel vs. Capcom. Those days, like it was nuts. It was an experience.
Yeah, miss those old Lynn Haven Mall days.
I feel like they could bring that back successfully. Like an actual full-blown arcade.
Well, they still have them. There's just less of them these days.
And they don't have like the fighting games. It'll be like the cheesy, like it'll be a lot of the prize games, ticket games, and then a few.
It's like the Dave and Buster's style. Dude, I can't stand Dave and Buster's.
Yeah, like light gun games and stuff.
Joke.
Like that's
not an arcade,
where's the like they don't even have regular Pac-Man. They've got like the one that's like ticket based too. It's like get the actual skill based games. None of this silly stuff where it's gambling.
You remember
tickets.
in San Diego we played Battle Royale Pac-Man at that arcade with
that was fun.
David and Dustin. That was fun.
That was fun.
Imagine Pac-Man, right? So you got a Pac-Man board, like an old school glass top where you look down on it and you're playing, and there's 4 spots. You all have your little joystick and your buttons. And the idea is you all start in Pac-Man, a typical Pac-Man game with the ghosts and your power-ups and all that. And you have to be the last one surviving to win. Man, that was a lot of fun. We probably played that for 2 hours that night.
We kept going back to it. I almost beat Marvel vs. Capcom there.
I remember
on
that.
1 quarter.
Yeah, dude. Like David was like, "Where's Tony at?" I was like, "He's still at Marvel vs. Capcom."
On 1 quarter. I didn't put any more in there.
Still rocking it. I wonder what the difficulty level is at the arcade.
Yeah,
it's got to be just standard difficulty, probably.
Well, it's funny because I think back in the day it was like because they wanted you to put more quarters in, so they probably ramped it up to the hardest one,
the hardest difficulty.
But that one couldn't have been on the hardest one. It couldn't have been. I mean, I remembered enough, but I was doing too good.
Yeah, that was fun. Good times in San Diego. Well, if
right,
you ever do you want to learn to surf? Do you want to learn to surf?
Not really.
All right,
I won't lie.
We'll see you next time, guys. I was gonna say I could teach you, but
realistically, I'm not.
Yeah. All
If
right.
you want to go shooting, we'll do that.
Yeah. Well, this was fun. Thank you for this.
Yes, sir. All right, I'm Tony.
I'm Matt.
This is the Tsunami Podcast.
Nice job. Hey, ring doorbell, huh?